Furiosa has finally hit cinemas. The fifth film in the Mad Max franchise. Has it been worth the wait? Is it any good? Does Mad Max appear? Or is this a Mad Max-less mess of a movie? We're going to find out in my review here and now. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my review for Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Yes, directed by George Miller, who directed the previous Mad Max movies. Written by George Miller and Nick Lathoris, with a lengthy runtime of 2 hours and 28 minutes. Is that too long? Again, we'll find that out. The film stars Anya Taylor-Joy, playing a young version of Furiosa, last seen played by Charlize Theron in Mad Max Fury Road. Furiosa here is also played by Alila Brown as a younger version of the character. Chris Hemsworth is in the film as Dr. Dementos, Tom Burke as Praetorian Jack, and Lockie Holm as Immortan Joe. Yes, who you will remember from previous film, the character. Music here brought to us by Tom Hulkenborg, who did actually do the music for Mad Max Fury Road itself. So, as this film starts off, it's about 45 years after the fall of mankind as we know it. And we're introduced to a young Furiosa who is taken. She's kidnapped from the green place of many mothers by a biker horde led by Dementos, Chris Hemsworth's character. Chris Hemsworth in heavy makeup, and he kind of takes her and keeps her, so to speak. As the film progresses, her mother tries to rescue her from his clutches, unsuccessfully. But Dementos goes out on the road trying to find the home where this young girl comes from, because there's an array of water supply, of food, this sort of a thing. But on the way he comes across the citadel that we know from Mad Max Fury Road, run by Immortan Joe. He wants to take it. He wants to take over it, only unsuccessfully. But he does take over one of the gas towns, and he comes into a working relationship with Immortan Joe. Both of them headed up this thing, but obviously the character of Dementos has ambitions, shall we say. Young Furiosa is taken under the wing of Immortan Joe, and thusly she grows up, and years pass. She becomes Anya Taylor-Joy, and the film progresses like that, and she wants revenge for what's happened to her mother at the hands of Dementos, and this kind of thing comes about. That's pretty much the story for this film. But is it any good? Is it any good? That's the question, isn't it? So like I said, 2 hours and 28 minutes. Lengthy runtime. Okay, as I went into this film, I was feeling Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I was feeling that. It's heavier on story. It's heavier on narrative, which was lacking from Mad Max Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road was very much a chase movie, as was like Mad Max 2 Road Warrior, and the latter part of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. But this one here, it does give you more story, more background information about the character of Furiosa, where she's come from, her life, the battling of these two warlords, this sort of a thing. And then when we do finally get introduced to Immortan Joe again, I'm starting to feel like this is looking repetitive. It's feeling repetitive. I'm just seeing stuff that I've seen before. There's nothing fresh here. But then we start getting into some action that is worthy of a Mad Max movie. You know, with the big oil rigs, chases, people trying to take the oil rigs down, people battling on the oil rigs, all this sort of stuff, and then the film progresses, action, then it kind of closes on a smaller scale ending, if that makes sense. I don't really want to spoil too much of it if you haven't seen the film, but you'll know what I mean. Very heavy on CG. Very heavy on CG. Again, as I went into the film at the beginning, I wasn't liking the visuals too much. It was very, very CG heavy. The makeup that Chris Hemsworth wears is kind of laughable, and I didn't know whether I liked him in the film or not. As the film progressed, you got used to him, you got used to the character that he's playing, you got used to the makeup, and the CGI kind of started to take a bit more of a back step when we get to the lorry chase and all this sort of thing. It feels a bit more in camera, shall we say, a bit more tangible, and what we're looking at is real. The film has obviously got a huge budget, and it doesn't waste it in that sense. There's some settings that look marvellous, the stuff on the dunes, the stuff in one of the gas towns that's down inside a mine, and this sort of a thing. It looks great, and there's some great action to be had. That's undeniable. The soundtrack, yes, it's same score and composer as Fury Road, so you have that connection to it as well. Now, my only issue with this film as it stands as a standalone movie is the length. It is quite lengthy. The opening is a bit tedious, shall we say. It is a bit boring until you actually get into the film. But ultimately, is it a film that's needed? That's the question. You know, this film, I would say, it's unfortunate. It's do I need an origin of a character? Because you're watching this film, and the same with all origin movies, you know that the character is safe. You know that characters like Immortan Joe is safe because you know what happens to them ultimately in the movie Mad Max Fury Road. So this sort of stuff, there's no tension there as such, and you can pretty much work out the happenings of the character played by Chris Hemsworth, because obviously he's not in Fury Road. Also, as I was watching this film, I was like saying to myself, okay, if this is going to be a new saga of the character of Furiosa, what they need to do now is make this a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, and then give us another Furiosa movie that is set after Mad Max Fury Road, with Charlize Theron, and then you have the ability of bringing Max back, because the question remains, is this film just a way of changing a character's gender? By which I mean, is it a way of giving us Mad Max movies with a female lead? And it's essentially, instead of reworking Mad Max as a female, you take a character from the pantheon of Mad Max and you do films around her, because at the end of the day you're getting the same sort of film. That's the question, and it does feel a bit like that. I do, you know, people will say, well, no, it's not, because it's a character that's already there, but it doesn't matter. It's the same thing, you know. It's not, you know, a warrior of the wasteland. That's what Mad Max is, a warrior of the wasteland. So is this character a warrior of the wasteland? Yes, she is. Now I'm going to spoil little spoiler. So click off if you don't want to hear this bit, or jump forward maybe 15 seconds. Does Mad Max appear? Yes, he does, but he doesn't, if that makes sense. You know what I mean if you've seen it. So we're out of that spoiler territory now. So ultimately, you know, I wasn't expecting too much from this film. It offered up enough for me to enjoy it. I mean, the action set pieces are great, you know, and I would watch them. I would watch the film for them. much like Mad Max 3, I can, you know, beyond Thunderdome, I think the last third of the film is fantastic when they get into the chases and that sort of a thing. And I think this film will have the same sort of appeal, where certain elements I don't enjoy too much, but when you get to those elements, I do really enjoy it. Back to what I said about this should be a film that stands before Mad Max Fury Road, as it does, and the next one being a follow-up. Interestingly enough, as the end credits roll for this film, you do get scenes from Mad Max Fury Road intercut into the end credits. That to me kind of suggests that yes, that might be the idea, to bring Furiosa back with Charlize Theron and set another one after it, making this a trilogy of Mad Max Saga films. I think that would be a good idea with the return of Max. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on this movie down below in the comments. And let's talk film. And I shall see you all later. Goodbye.